Falmouth League of Women Voters Candidates Night. I'm Janet Lauer, Steering Committee Chair for the Falmouth League. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, I would like to express our appreciation to the candidates for participating tonight and the watching audience for coming. Also, our gratitude to FCTV, our partner in presenting Candidates Night. Thanks to FCTV, this event is being broadcast live tonight and will be rebroadcast as well as on FCTV's Roku and Apple TV channels and the FCTV website, www.fctv.org. You can check FCTV's broadcast schedule on the station's bulletin board and in the Falmouth Enterprise. Heartfelt thanks to the dedicated members of the League of Women Voters Voter Service Committee who have contributed to this program and who have worked so hard to make this event a reality, and to the many leaguers who volunteered to help out this evening. Deep gratitude to our librarian director, Brian Stokes, and IT manager, Peter Cook, for overseeing the seating arrangements in the Hermann and Bay rooms. A few words about the League. We are a nonpartisan political organization of women and men. We're nonpartisan because we never support a candidate or party. We're political to the extent that we do take positions on public policy issues, but only after studying the facts, discussing them, and forming a group consensus. We work to encourage active participation in government, to increase the understanding of major public policy issues, and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Literature about the Falmouth League can be found in the lobby and online. Voting is one kind of active participation in government. We hope that the information provided by the candidates this evening will help you to cast an informed vote on May 20th. On this election day, there are two lively contests among candidates who represent Falmouth residents for town government. They will be answering questions submitted by the League and by members of the public in writing. Two high school student league members, volunteers, will also ask one question. This is the first candidates' night with student participation. Candidates for uncontested offices will have the opportunity to introduce themselves as well. The League thanks them for their valuable service to the town. Our moderator is Mindy Todd, award-winning broadcast journalist and host of WCAI's The Point. It's now my pleasure and honor to introduce our moderator, Mindy Todd.
Thank you. So nice to see a full room. How exciting. Just going to go over the format real quickly, and it will be questions that have been asked by the League. We'll have a minute and a half, 90 seconds for each of those questions. At the end, you'll also have a minute and a half for some closing comments. Before we introduce the candidates, though, I want to bring up the Town Clerk, Michael Palmer, who's got a quick message for everybody. You want to come to that mic right there?
Hello, my name is Michael Palmer. I've been the town clerk for the past 22 years, and I'm here tonight to ask you to vote on May 20th. You're voting for the people that represent us in our town government. You're voting for these people over here and some of the people that are sitting here. They're your friends, your neighbors, your family. You see them in a supermarket. You can actually have a conversation with them. So you need to get out and vote on May 20th. There are three options to vote for May 20th. You can vote in person, as always, on Election Day. You can vote early by mail. We need an application from you, and we will mail you out a ballot. Or you can vote early in person, which will be the week leading up to the election at Town Hall from 8 to 10. 10 to 2. So across the country and in Falmouth in particular, our local elections have a terrible problem of low voter turnout. And we barely ever get close to 20% turnout. But I think we can do better. So I'm going to challenge everyone here and in the town of Falmouth to vote on Election Day, but I'm going to also ask you to make a commitment. You have to make a commitment to vote. You have to make a commitment to have your family members vote. You have to make a commitment to contact everyone in your contact list on your phones, on your computers, asking them to vote and get a commitment from them. You need to offer to give somebody a ride to the polls that can't make it. You need to talk to a stranger at the supermarket and get into a conversation with them and tell them the importance of voting. We can do better than 20% turnout in Falmouth. So I'm challenging you to do that. Again, I'm Michael Palmer. I've been the clerk for 22 years. It's been my honor to serve in that capacity in my hometown. So please vote on May 20th, because I really believe that Falmouth can do better.
Thank you. All right, our candidates for Select Board, and this is electing 3 of them for a 3-year term. Doug Brown, Richard McAvoy, James Morse, and Colin Reed. Thank you all for being. Two. Voting 2. Why do I have 3 on here? Oh, somebody made a mistake. Okay, 2, thank you.
There's another race that's uncontested, and Jack Richardson's going to take that spot.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Okay. Thanks for the clarification. All right, let's start with the first question, and we'll go in alphabetical order, and then we'll alternate who answers first. Okay, so, Doug, we'll start with you. What issue would be your top priority over the next 3 years if you are elected to the Select Board, and why? And why do you want the job?
I think our biggest challenge over the next few years is going to be looking at our capital improvement plan, which our not new, but our town manager, when he first came to town, he said we need to recognize what our infrastructure assets are and what our liabilities are. And a very thorough study of all of our infrastructure shows that we have now assembled a $750 million 10-year capital plan, and that is going to be tricky. So we're going to have to really think about what we spend our money on. That went by
You
quickly.
still have 30, no, you still have 30
Oh, I'm
seconds.
sorry, you said it's time. Okay, got it.
30 seconds more, and then she'll give you a
So
time. And,
My
yeah.
point is that over the next few years, we're going to have to work with the Finance Committee and come up with a plan to where we spread out some of that $750 million over a longer period. We're going to have to prioritize what we spend our money on.
Thank you. Richard?
Next 3 years, I'm thinking housing, really workforce housing. Those are the people, the young people that come here and work, and they have to commute from because they can't afford to live here. I think we have to balance that with the development or overdevelopment, in my opinion, of these giant buildings where they're trying. So it's that balance that I think is going to be very difficult in the next 3 years.
You want to add why you want the job?
I grew up in Falmouth. I love Falmouth. I went away to college, realized I missed it, took it for granted, and came back, and I kind of want to be involved.
Thank you. James Morse, same question.
So I would suggest that first of all, can everyone hear me? Okay, there we go.
Pull a little closer to you, yeah.
I would suggest that affordability is going to be the single largest thing facing the town. That touches out to what Mr. Brown was talking about in terms of capital improvements. We're going to have significant costs between sewer and aging buildings. As Mr. McAvoy indicated, yes, we have a real housing shortage. We have a real housing problem. And we have competing interests and mandates coming down from Boston. In one side, they're mandating that we have to have additional housing. At the same time, they're mandating, hey, reduce your nitrogen load in your estuaries, clean up your waterways. All of these things are going to cause Falmouth to become less and less affordable. We are at a crisis in that I suggest that many middle-class people can't afford to stay here. Many younger people simply can't afford to put roots down here.
Thank you. Colin?
Great, thank you. I would agree with the capital budget. I would agree with wastewater. I would agree with housing and zoning. But at the end of the day, everything is contingent upon wastewater right now. You cannot solve the housing issues that we have without zoning. We can't solve zoning without wastewater. And it does play into the capital budget, but I think we need to deal with these in a comprehensive way that brings everything to the table. You cannot make one decision in a vacuum. You have to look at it all together. I'm interested in this position because that's just what I do. I've worked in strategic planning and organizational leadership and communications and community building, and that's what I want to bring to the Select Board so that we can remain laser focused on the important and the urgent issues that are facing Falmouth. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Richard McAvoy, we start with you this time. How do you believe the town's budget may be impacted by current proposed federal budget changes, and what steps should the Select Board take to address these conditions?
Well, I don't really believe that it's a direct one-for-one. If the federal budget goes through the states and we get some of that, most of the stuff on our budget, our revenue figures are coming from property taxes and other sources of revenue. So I'm not really sure. I think it has a more direct effect on the local economy. And so like Hui, how many people lost their job because they just got pulled? I mean, I don't know if it hits our budget, but it does hit our people. Even people probably taking a school loan or already have a school loan have to pay it. Those people are going to be impacted too. But again, those are people. Those aren't the budget. So I'm not really sure how it would affect the budget immediately. Perhaps in a few years, and we'll have time, I think, to look at it. So we don't need to make, and plus the budget is about to be finalized too. So I think it would be next year's budget as well. So.
Thank you. James?
The current political situation in Washington, D.C. is going to have a cascading effect on Falmouth. It just seems to be open season right now on the Department of Education, academia, our scientific communities. You'll start to see fewer grants that are coming into the state. In turn, you'll see fewer local receipts coming down here to communities. I would anticipate, kind of like throwing a stone into a mill pond, you're going to see a ripple effect for the next couple of years. I think it's going to be important for the FinCom, for the Board of Selectmen, and for town meeting to proceed with caution. It's going to have to make some very difficult budget decisions about what is absolutely necessary, but versus what would be nice to spend money on. And I would anticipate this probably for the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you. Colin?
Well, I work at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, so I know firsthand on what the proposed budget cuts are, what they could possibly do. I think the town of Falmouth has two roles here. One, we have to look at the direct impact. I think that's easy to do. We can look at our budgets and understand exactly what will be affected by that and make plans accordingly. I think more important is also to look at the indirect. We have friends, family, neighbors who will be affected by this. This will be really hard for us. The science industry, the healthcare industry, we are the second largest sector in Falmouth right now, behind travel and tourism, right? So Falmouth needs to take a comprehensive look. I keep using that word, but we need to look comprehensively at what will happen to us if we minimize that scientific envelope caused by cuts from the federal government and plan accordingly. And that's the key to the game, is planning accordingly.
Thank you. Doug?
So actually, the federal cuts are already impacting Falmouth. We lost $7,500 that was slated for the public library here to do cataloging and archiving. We've got federal administration just recently, I think on the 27th, failed and refused to spend $3 billion out of a $12.8 billion package. The Trump administration has already said that they're going to target schools that don't comply with their demands. There's a lot of those in Massachusetts already. I think a bigger thing that's going to be impacting us is what I see is probably a downturn in the economy, because receipts will be down, and it's going to affect us across the board. So it's more than just cuts.
Thank you. James, we start with you this time. What do you think the Select Board should do to promote the respectful exchange of opposing points of view at its public meetings?
We have board policies and such. I think it's important that any type of elected body should have a diverse set of people representing a town. Our town is very diverse. It's just important to maintain decorum. Stringent debate should always be encouraged, but it needs to be done in a manner that is respectful of other people's viewpoints. I think that it's just important to elect people who are capable of doing that, capable who are making an argument for their point of view or advocating for a specific position or perhaps for a specific point of town, but to always do it in a respectful manner. Reasonable people can disagree. They should do so with candor and respect to one another, though.
Thank you. Colin?
I couldn't agree more on that. I think decorum, respect, but central to that is listening, putting yourself in other people's shoes. And I think that, as co-chair of the EDIC, we experience that. You have general comment, you have decorum, you have agenda, but being able to listen truly to what's happening, I think, is very important, no matter your stance, where you come from.
Thank you. Doug?
Certainly, everyone should be able to speak their mind clearly and plainly and not have to be facing any kind of retribution at the hands of their own local government. I think that, for the most part, we do a pretty good job with that in the Falmouth, and I hope to see that continue. I'm not sure exactly where the question came from, but I hope we continue to do improvements as we go along.
Richard?
Yeah, I think everybody agrees that everyone should get along and be able to say, Is this a town meeting, people yelling at each other? I'm not exactly sure where this came from, but I think it starts with your elected official. You elect people that listen, they show empathy, and, you know, they let you, you know, talk, and then they provide something back to you, so.
Thank you. All right. Colin, we're going to start with you this time. What steps should the select board take to address the issue of sewage and innovative alternatives?
Well, we started earlier on that. I think the town is doing a very nice job. I'm not running because there's a bee in my bonnet or I think something has been done wrong so far. I think, in fact, we're doing the right things. We've started with the recent town meeting and the approval of the budget to start moving in that direction or continue moving in the direction. The steps that I think we need to do is truly look at how we are going to protect our water sources, to clean up our water sources, and to move forward in a way that's going to be sustainable for the years to come.
Thank you. Doug?
So our town sewering plan only calls for us to sewer probably about 20 to 25% of the town, but we have about 70% of the town that contributes to estuaries and ponds and water resources. So in other areas where we're not sewering, we're going to need alternative innovative systems or urine diverting toilets if they come around where we can put them on the program. The problem with the IAs right now is they don't work well. They're very expensive. They require a lot of expensive monitoring, $2,000 a year. People that are forced to put them in are often reluctant to maintain them as they need to. So it's not a good answer for now, but if we can put a program together in concert with the people at MassTech out at the Otis base, we can maybe make a program to make it more user-friendly where that could be sponsored by the town to come around and do the management and do the testing at a much reduced cost. That's my hope for that.
Thank you. Richard?
Yeah, I think we're doing an okay job with the septic, but I think the people that have to pay, you know, not the town part of it, it's the 70-30 rule, right? I mean, it's very expensive for you know, some of these, I know there are some wealthy people in town, and it's fine, but there's a lot of not so wealthy people in town. A lot of these, like going down the Mar Vista there, that's this new one that's going in. Those houses are small. They're not really as high, as valued as some of the other ones that you'd see, you know, in Penzance Point or something. So I think that's really what we need to get a hold of. I know that I saw the state, I guess it's the senator or the congressman there, that they're trying to get a new tax so the tax credit can go past so you can get a refund. That's something, I think, at least. But it's not an easy question, but I think that's the big one. So
Thank you. James?
I think the town needs to, the various permitting authorities, the Board of Health, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Building Department and such, need to come up with some unified regulations about when IA systems are going to be triggered or need to be installed. It's only fair that people need to understand that if they do certain things, it could trigger the necessity of a new septic system going in. The town needs to continue to look for best practices to reducing nitrogen load, look for, identify stakeholders or potential grants down the road to help reduce these systems. I, for example, live in West Falmouth. West Falmouth is one of those affected with estuaries, and there's no plan to sewer West Falmouth anytime soon. As a resident of West Falmouth, I want to know, okay, what is the plan? When is an IA system going to be required? When is an upgrade going to be required? They need to be looking at ways to encourage people to upgrade those systems voluntarily rather than force them down the road. That could be from tax credits through Beacon Hill, or find other creative ways to make replacement or upgrade affordable.
Thank you. Right, Doug, you start this one. What action should the select board take to ensure that our water is safe for consumption?
We should continue to be very protective of our water resource protection areas. The county government does water testing periodically. They just got a new PFAS sensitivity machine that is measured down to the billionth, I believe. So it's constantly being monitored, but we have to be careful of development in water protection zones. We are very careful, and I think we're always taking advantage to buy property where it becomes available. We just bought another property recently to expand that water protection zone around around our Long Pond water resource. We have to be wary of plumes that are coming from the military reservation because we had one impact the Fresh Pond well. Fortunately, one of our local delegates got $8 million to provide carbon filtration, so that well can be put back online. But it's a constant threat, because all the stuff that goes into the ground makes its way into our sole source aquifer, and we end up getting stuck with it. So we have to be very careful.
Right. Richard?
Yeah, so the Long Pond thing is, I remember we had the boil water thing. I never want to go through that again. So we need to watch what's going on there. I think some of that was just, it rained a lot, and so you end up with, so there's that going on. But, you know, I'm not an expert in the water filtration world, but I think we, you know, you do the obvious things at least, and then go from there and you talk to the experts, I guess.
Thank you. James?
So Falmouth's unique. I think we're the only Cape community that has an above-ground reservoir as its primary source of drinking water. So we absolutely have to protect it. We have to be very restrictive of development around Long Pond. We must be constantly monitoring what's going on, quality of drinking water, other issues. We have plumes, as Mr. Brown indicated, as a result of fuel spills and other contaminants in the soil at Otis. We have to make sure that those are not continuing to traverse south into our drinking water. And overall, we just have to be careful with our development. It was interesting, they were talking about drinking water this morning on 95.1, and the issue sometimes isn't so much that we're running out of water, it's that we don't have the pumping capacity to keep up with our needs. So again, so it's a combination of monitoring, sensible growth, development, and protecting what's available.
Thank you. Colin?
Take that one step further. I think my colleagues here have answered many of the things correctly, but let's focus on testing, protection, mitigation, and adaptation, but really looking at water as one water, an alliance, whether you're drinking or protecting or wastewater, it's all connected, and we cannot make decisions in silos. There are communities around the country right now that are working together, that are bringing all of the departments that have anything to do or have any impact on water sources together to help make the appropriate decisions, and that's what we need to do here at the Select Board. We have that responsibility to bring people around the table, because it will have an effect on where we develop, on where we don't develop, where we protect, where we don't protect, where it's safe to build, et cetera. So I think all those things are interconnected, and that's what we need to do to ensure safety of our water and water quality.
Thank you. Before we move on to league questions, Aisha Shafee from Mashpee High is going to ask the first audience question. So nice to have some young people asking questions. Aisha, you want to come right up here to this mic?
Good afternoon. So the question that I have is, will you use your power on the board to resist efforts to cut off funding for programs that foster diversity and plan to do that in the future?
We'll start with you this time, Richard.
No, definitely not. Diversity is necessary, and I mean, it goes with the other question. It's like, you know, is everyone being nice to each other? Same kind of thing, right? So definitely, I would definitely not use my power of the vote on the board to somehow take that away from somebody.
James?
Short answer, no. I'm an attorney. I'm a member of the LGBTQ Bar Association. I believe firmly in the rule of law. Before that, I served as a union president for 18 years, advocating, ensuring that rights of working class people are upheld. Diversity in our town, diversity in our workforce are absolutely important necessity, and the people must be protected.
Thank you. Colin?
Will I use the power? Absolutely, and that'll be a collective. That'll be part of the Select Board working together in alignment. Thank you for that question. Thank you for coming up from high school to ask that question. I think what Falmouth has at its benefit is that we can fund things. We have the power of budget here. That is one of our policy roles here. And we have the power of using our budget to continue to support these things, regardless of what happens out of Washington, D.C. And if not, we also have state money coming in. And we know that we live in a very generous state, albeit maybe the budgets are being proposed to be cut a little bit. But yes, where power is available, standing behind DEI initiatives is absolutely necessary.
Doug?
So I think there might have been confusion on the initial, on the question. You asked if we will use our power to support DEI, correct?
Sorry. Let me pull it up. Yeah, I said, wait, no, I think I went against. I said, will you use your power on the board to resist efforts to
Okay.
cut the funding? So basically saying in support of it, like, will you support DEI in the future, or will you think about cutting the funding for that and kind of?
I will support DEI. I think it's been really worked well in Falmouth. We've brought a lot of talented people here. Diversity makes us stronger. If you look at the whole country, we're a diverse nation. That's part of what makes us strong. I don't know if you saw our last select board meeting, but we had DEI committee come and present to us because of their concern for, very similar to your question. And there's very strong support from the board, current members and I'm sure future members. And as I mentioned at the meeting on Monday, I'm very proud of my town for, we've always been a bastion of a haven for everyone. The Quakers used to have to come here years ago because they were being persecuted in other towns and run off, and they always were welcome here. And it's been the same way with the Portuguese community. They built this community, the farming community. We're not going to change that.
Thank you. Aisha, thank you. Thanks for the question. Appreciate that. All right. And this time, I think, James, it's your turn to go first. And this is questions from the audience. In what order would you cut the department budgets if you had to? Schools, fire, police, or DPW?
Oh!
I don't know who had that question.
I think I'd abstain from that meeting. I think at this point I would probably start with DPW. If I had to choose between essential services and making sure that a fire call, that a fire was being put out, or that if someone was calling in that there was a burglar breaking into their house, those are core essential government functions. Those are things that were expected, that a municipality is expected to provide. Equally important is education. I am the eldest of 3 boys, the son of 2 teachers, so I think I don't fear you as much as my mother if I suddenly started to cut a school budget. But education is enshrined in my values. I think it's very important to make sure that we continue to provide education. That's something that should be cut last. I say that if you think that education is expensive, try ignorance. I think that we can probably go without filling potholes for a little while, although not to belittle or make less of anything that DPW does. That's where I would start by reducing a budget. I think that that's usually there would be room for cuts there first.
Thank you. Colin?
Appreciate the question from the audience. I don't know who asked that, but that's a tough one and that's a doozy. I will not profess to know the actual answer on that one. I think all 4 are important. I think if you have to look at the budgets over the course of time here at Falmouth, and we haven't changed those very much, very small percentage points. So to do so will require a lot of debate and a lot of input to understand the consequences of those. So I am officially punting on this one by selecting one over the other. But I think that's the role of the select board. We may be faced with these types of decisions, but before making those types of decisions, you're going to have to bring everybody around the table and work on this and understand the risks before just haphazardly cutting it. And that's why I would not do that right now in front of you, haphazardly cutting. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug?
The first thing I would do is ask the superintendent, the police chief, the fire chief, and the DPW director, where can you cut discretionary spending? And ask them what kind of things they can voluntarily take out of their budget. That's the first thing I would do, and then take it from there. And then I would have to say the second step would be, if there had to be mandatory cuts, probably would be DPW. Our DPW is probably one of the most robust in at least the Cape, and I don't know how many can compare. But there's a lot of things that they do that are really great projects, and they're really improvements, but not all of them are really essential, so.
Thank you. Richard?
Definitely DPW. The other 3, fire, we don't want people's houses to burn down. The police, really, we want to be safe. School, our kids need school. And we need the DPW as well, but if there was one that you just had to, that would be it. But I think Doug's idea really about talking to them and maybe having them cutting themselves, that would help you a lot. Or most likely you'd probably cut from all of them in the end, but so.
Colin, we start with you this time, and the question is, for or against the wind farm?
For or against the wind farm?
Yep.
I am for the wind farm. It's an alternative source of energy, and I think in today's world we have to look at every available opportunity beyond oil and gas to complement the entire portfolio. You cannot rely on one source. You cannot rely only on solar. You cannot rely only on oil and gas. We have to complement it with as many things as possible. I'll leave it right there.
All right, thank you. Doug?
I'm an advocate for wind power, but I'm opposed to the process that we have at hand. The government, I think, is kind of relinquishing the projects to the developers and just deferring to them. California has a much more robust wind energy approval process. They thoroughly vet, and then they set the parameters for environmental controls. Massachusetts just says to the developers, what do you propose? No, maybe it's okay. It's just not the way to do it. So I think we can do better, and I'm very concerned about consideration of changing the rules to allow constructive permits for renewable energy projects. It's just really throwing their hands up and saying, we know we need it, we don't know how to do it right, but we're just going to do it anyway. So that's my position.
Thank you. Richard?
Well, I'm for wind generally, but I don't really like it, here. I don't like it in the water. I don't want to see it. So I guess I'm against it here. So there you go.
Thank you. James?
I'm all about renewable energy. I'm all about wind power, anything that's going to reduce use and dependence on fossil fuels. I do have some reservations based on how the permitting process went down. I think that there were some communities in terms of where electrical lines are coming were bullied. So I would improve the process of how these farms are being permitted. I would listen to more of the stakeholders. I would not be opposed to pushing it a few more miles offshore so they weren't as visible. But I think it's important that energy in the United States continue to become as diverse as possible.
Thank you. All right, Doug, we start with you this time. How do you feel about town-owned guns going into circulation?
Well, our board has taken the advice of our residents who've come strongly in favor of destroying the guns. We first felt like maybe it wasn't really our purview. The select board was deferring to the police department, and then we got more and more concerns and comments from the public, and we took them to heart, and we said, let's look into it further. Come to find out that really there are ways to safely destroy them and not have to follow procurement laws that we were maybe misinterpreting. And so now our policy is that they'll be destroyed when they're at the end of use, because we have done research, come to learn that, residents have done research for us and presented to us that sometimes they fall into the wrong hands. So I think we've got the right policy now.
Thank you. Richard?
I like the idea that we're destroying guns at the end of their life. I mean, you don't want. What do they do with them? They don't destroy them. Right? They're going to sit in somebody's closet or something forever. You don't want that either, right? So I'm all for it.
James?
Town meeting, I should say, a petition article was passed by town meeting, and the town, through its elected representatives, made a decision that they would rather that these firearms be destroyed rather than resold. My Scottish heritage would sometimes want some of the money coming back to town to save money, but I think that the will of town meeting has to be respected. So I think that it's perfectly fine, and I wouldn't do anything to oppose that.
Thank you. Colin?
I would agree wholeheartedly on that. I think the town followed good process, so Doug, well done on that with the team that was there. And I fully support what the select board did decide to do in terms of destroying guns.
We're going to move to closing comments now, and Richard McAvoy, your turn to go first.
Okay, so I'm a longtime Falmouth person, never been in politics. I have a giant family. I came from one of 11, so I bet a lot of you probably know one of my siblings, perhaps my parents. They'd be very proud of me sitting up here, by the way, but so I don't have a lot of experience in the politics, but I know all the issues. I live on Woods Hole Road, and I hear the noise coming by every day. I mean, I ride the bike path, and it's been closed. It's really not that great. My father built that Little League field that they're, going to try to fix. I hope no one's blaming him, but no, just kidding. But while I'm new, I think I give a fresh perspective, fresh ideas that I haven't been here, so of course they're going to be fresh, right? So I think that's the biggest thing I bring in is new blood.
Thank you, James Morse.
So Falmouth today is at a crossroads. We have a housing shortage. We have rents and real estate prices that have risen considerably, so much so that working class people can't afford to stay here, let alone put down roots and start. We have aging municipal buildings and infrastructure. We have state mandates that are in friction, causing significant expenses. Reduce nitrogen, at the same time build more housing. Falmouth needs people with experience in addressing these needs while ensuring that our character, the town's character, remains. As a candidate, I'll be bringing a combination of legal experience, nonprofit experience, education, and common sense. I've served on the Zoning Board of Appeals now for 6 years, holding every position from associate member up to chair. I guided the town through some of the largest, most complex affordable housing projects in the town's history. As an attorney, I advocate every day for Falmouth businesses and Falmouth residents. As a past union president, I have fought for the rule of law and upholding rights of working class people. I'm an advocate. I want to be an advocate for all of Falmouth, from Woods Hole to Wacoit, from Megantic to Minot. I'm approachable, I'm accessible, I'm not afraid of adversity or making difficult decisions. This election this spring is about your voice, your future, and our town. On May 20th, I would ask for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin Reed.
Great, thank you. First, I neglected to say this earlier, but Janet, thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to FCTV for broadcasting this. Thank you, Mindy, for moderating, and thanks for everybody for joining. A little bit about me. I'm Colin Reed. I'm 45 years old. I'm originally from a small town in Bennington, Vermont. I met my wife here in Falmouth, and we're setting down our roots here. So only I've been here for 10 years, not forever. I think it qualifies me, setting down roots. I'm employed at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and prior to that, I worked 12 years in Washington, D.C., where I cut my teeth learning how the government works and sometimes doesn't. I have an undergraduate degree in communications and public relations and an executive MBA. Why do I tell you all this? Because through the training, through working at all the various jobs, I have experience in strategic planning, organizational leadership, communications, and community building. And that's exactly what I want to bring to the select board. Falmouth faces a lot of challenges. They're all intermingled, right? And, you know, I think we're very, very fortunate to have the leadership that we do, both on the select board, but also in the town offices. And what I want to bring to the board is help us remain laser focused on the issues that are important and urgent, not just the loud ones, but the important ones and the urgent ones. So we need a teamwork approach to make the best decisions necessary. And I'll just leave it at that. I thank you very much, and please vote on May 20th.
Thank
for
you.
Mr. Plum.
Doug.
Hi, so I'm Doug Brown. I've been a select board member for 9 years now. It's the end of my third term. If I get reelected, this will be my last one, I'm pretty sure. I'll 66 at the end of this month, so it'll be retirement time for me, and I think this will be my final. So I've been a town meeting member for 20 years. I'm an East Falmouth kid. I grew up in East Falmouth. I was on Precinct 3 for many years, became the captain. I moved with Robin over to Precinct 9 years ago, and I was on Precinct 9 town meeting. Now I'm in Precinct 5. I've been involved with the wastewater planning for also about 20 years. Virginia Viella invited me to be a part of the original Comprehensive Wastewater Plan Review Committee, where the town was faced with a $610 million wastewater project because the state was mandating that we do something, and actually they said, you have to do everything. We were able to bring that down to a more reasonable number of $290 million by modifying and fixing up our own plant. And we came up with a plan to implement $50 million incremental projects over the course of 35 years. So we made that 610 go away and brought it down to 290. So far, we've probably spent only half of that. So it's made our town a lot more financially manageable. So I look forward to continue to work with the professional staff that we have. It's a really good one. And I think we can be successful over the next few years and set the pace for future leaders.
Thank you. Doug Brown, Richard McAvoy, James Morse, and Colin Reed, thanks. Thanks for being here.
enough mics? Yep. I'm fine, thank you.
We have to share a microphone?
So you're not digging for it.
Okay, so.
Okay, as you see, we don't have enough microphones for everybody. You're just going to have to share.
I can share mine.
Yeah, we're good. I'm loud enough anyway, so.
Same rules. It's going to be 90 seconds for the questions and closing comments at the end. Our school committee candidates, as you can see, Melissa Keefe, Margaret Souza, Michael Halen, Sarah Bogdan, and Amanda McGonigal, and Jane Scarborough. Welcome. This is the hot race, right? All right, let's get started. The first question, what background, experience, and training have led you to be a candidate for the school committee? We'll start with you. We're not doing opening, we're just gonna go right into, in lieu of an introduction, you can do it in the closing. It's still very similar to an opening, why you want the job, right? So what background, experiences, and training have led you to be a candidate for school committee? Melissa, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Mindy.
Into the mic, yep.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you, FCTV, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight and for watching. I've had the honor and privilege of being on the school committee for the last 10 years. I came in as a young mom on a 1 year, I'm going to see if I like it, kind of go of it, and here I am 10 years later. If reelected, I, like Doug, have decided this will be my last campaign. What things do I bring to the table? Experience with the committee for the last 10 years. I've had lots of projects that I have initiated, seen through. We're currently on a couple of very big projects that I am looking forward to seeing through. I have sat on the policy subcommittee since I started. I have sat on the superintendent evaluations, and this year I'm on negotiations, and that's another big project that I would like to see through. So I would hope that my experience is enough for that. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Margaret?
Thank you. And I want to thank you for hosting, thank the League for having us, and thank TV for doing this. Okay, my first degree was actually in English, my second degree was in social work, and my last degree was in anthropology. And my brother wondered when I finished that what I was going to do. Every fall I feel like I should be back in school. I started my first professional career as a third grade teacher, and I finished my last professional degree, my last professional job as a unit coordinator in Staten Island, and I mainly taught paraprofessionals. They were very inspiring and really helped me. And also during that time, for over 30 years, I taught at NYU. I taught the drug and alcohol education course that was a required course for teachers, mandated in New York State. Why I want this job? I want this job because I believe in education. I believe in kids. I will not be alive to see the kids who are in our school today and the leadership they will bring in the future. And I can't think of anything more important than providing a good education to all of our students, to every single one of them. And that's why I'm here. I never dreamed in my lifetime I would become a member of the school committee, and this is my swan song after beginning in third grade, and I'm glad to be here. And I love Falmouth. I moved here 10 years ago. I fell in love with it, and I never want to leave it.
Thank you. Michael?
All right, thank you, Mindy. Whoa, this is a hot mic. Thank you, Bob and Alan and Thomas, who I just met in the truck. Nice guy. Thank you all for coming. Thank the League of Women Voters. My experience, I went to Falmouth High School, class of '98, went off to Fitchburg State and got my communications, a BS Communications. I have my MBA from Fitchburg State, and I am currently at Northeastern getting my EDD in my dissertation. I have kids in the district. My parents still live in town, and I like to think that my biggest character trait that makes me best for this job is communication skills. Talking to the parents, talking to the teachers, talking to the taxpayers who might not have children in the school. Whenever we're making a decision, we have to look at it from multiple angles, multiple lenses, and I feel that I do a good job with that, and that is my strongest quality for this job. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, put one of those mics close to you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Bogdan. I'm running for school committee. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What background, experiences, and training have led you to be a candidate for the school committee?
Okay, I'll start with my background. I grew up on the South Shore. My college, my undergrad was in business. My master's is in education. And from that, I did teach in Mashpee and in Plymouth for a few years, and I stepped down to focus on building a family. Settled in Falmouth 20 years ago. Since then, I've had children. I've volunteered too many hours to count. I've made relationships with students, with the community, with the teachers. I also own a business. I've owned this business for, I think we're going on our ninth summer. Built from the ground up. Strategic planning, super important in building a business that has been successful. I've made policy, I've created a team, I've communicated. I believe I'm very good at communicating with people, especially one-on-one, whole group, big group, not sure. I'm a very thoughtful person. And I think with my business and my education, my time in the classroom, I think I bring a unique perspective to the board this year.
Thank you. Amanda.
Hello, my name is Amanda McGonigal. I'd also like to thank the League for hosting and to the library for allowing us to use this space, and to FCTV for streaming so that my kiddos at home can watch. And also, I was just looking at the time, it's 7:47, go to bed. A little bit about me, I am a mom to 2 Falmouth kiddos. I have a daughter in 3rd grade, and I have a son in a preschool in town. We love it. It's perfect for them, both of those schools. I'm not, just a mom that's invested in their education, from afar. I'm volunteering in the schools every single week, sometimes twice a week. There are teachers in this room that can attest to that. I'm a young family that put down roots in Falmouth, so I have an idea of what it's like to draw young families to Falmouth. And I can kind of offer firsthand experience for that. I'm running for the school committee because I think that we need some fresh perspectives and strong voices to advocate for our kiddos, for our staff, for our educators, for an equitable experience for all. And so I'm ready to do that. My personal experience is I'm a chief revenue officer for a tech startup. I do not have a background in education necessarily, but I do have an experience of bringing people together, multiple stakeholders, synthesizing their wants and their needs, and being able to drive actionable results from that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jane.
Sorry, Jane.
Good evening. My name is Jane Scarborough, and I'm a retired law professor, but my passion has always been education. I actually left a profitable law career in New York City to come back to Northeastern University School of Law to teach. When I was a child, my favorite story was the one about the little engine that could. The story's moral seemed to me to be work hard enough and you can overcome anything. It took me a long time before I realized that hard work was seldom enough. Hard work without being empathic as to its effect on others. Hard work without understanding the price you pay. Hard work without a result that serves more than yourself. I've lived in Falmouth for over 30 years, though only as a full-time resident in recent years. While I don't have children of my own, I feel like I have hundreds. Former students from my many years teaching public and private high school, university undergrads, doctoral students, and law students, many with whom I stay in contact. I have come to love this town with its generous and caring people. So I've invested my time in the community. I've done pro bono mediation in the Falmouth District Court.
Jane, I'm sorry, that's time. That's 90 seconds, sorry. Yeah, okay.
So that's what I did.
Margaret, we start with you this time. The Falmouth website lists several responsibilities assigned to the school committee. What do you consider to be the 2 or 3 most important responsibilities of the school committee, and which one would be your priority?
Wow. Well, let's see. The school committee does finance, policy, and work with the superintendent, evaluate and work with the superintendent. I'm not big on websites. So technology is not my strong suit. As a matter of fact, my first year, they had me on the technology committee, and all the technology teachers loved it because I was so stupid. They said, this is a person we should have. We need to know what to do. I think my work for 2 years on the finance committee has been very important because there is a direct relationship between finance and students' education. And so I'm really concerned about maintaining good finance, particularly in this particular time. In terms of the policy, I haven't served on the policy committee, but in fact, I try to pay close attention to make sure policies are clear, make sure policies are understandable, and make sure they're usable. Oh my God. And the other thing I think is I try to have a good relationship with the superintendent, because I think that having a good relationship with the superintendent allows her to hear from me that I support her, but I'm honest in terms of my communication. If there's something I don't like, I'm the first one in her office to let her know. I let her know directly and clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
All right, I'm going to copy some of Margaret's answer, but budget's a big thing. Whatever happens with federal grant money, if we get some budget cuts there, we're going to have to make that up. Now, Falmouth is in a luckier place in some districts where the percentage of federal funds is smaller, but that is something that we have to look at. The most important thing is policy, and policy that is driven by the stakeholders in our community, whether that be the students, the teachers, the parents, the community as a whole. We cannot pass policy down from the top and push it on people. We have to listen to every stakeholder in the community. And I believe that if we are making decisions for the town as a whole, we need to listen to everyone in the town to make educated decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
So the three main responsibilities: budget, working with the superintendent, and policy. They're all very important. I will pick budget though, as we should focus on, just because of many reasons actually, but the uncertainty of the future, of the funding, of the aid coming down, trickling down. I know that the administration has asked for will ask for an increase in budget, has asked for an increase in budget. I know that $10,600 was just spent, and it wasn't student-based. It was not student-based. It was on a communication consult and a moderator. And I know the driving force is special education. That's the most expensive part of the budget, and I know that number is rising. So I know the focus, I think the main focus should be budget. That is my answer.
Thank you. Amanda?
Thank you. So for those that don't have the website in front of them, I am a nerd. And it's my understanding that the list of responsibilities included budget review and approval, collective bargaining, community relations, curriculum approval, health and safety, hiring and evaluating the superintendent, policy development, and system-wide goals. I'm going to choose to speak about policy, not necessarily coming in and making any changes to policy by any means, but more so just making sure that we adhere to the current policies that we have, especially over the next few years where there's a lot of uncertainty. You spoke to DEI tonight. We do have policies in place that we are supposed to protect and stand by our students and staff, and make sure nobody is being discriminated against on the basis of race, identity, creed, religion, lack of religion, et cetera. And so not so much making new policy, but standing by the policies that exist. The other one, I believe it's BA, the policy BA, it has to do with the school committee's operational goals. We are supposed to be, or the school committee is supposed to be responsible for getting in touch with the teachers, those that are responsible for carrying out the objectives in the district, before implementing them. And I don't know that that's happening necessarily. And so I would like to see that change.
Thank you. Jane?
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, I think that the hiring of the superintendent and the evaluation is a critical part. I'm reminded of my own experience that is close to that. It was a private school where it's a board of trustees and not a school board. And I used to have a trustee that would come in and he would say, well, there's only one question we need to ask. Do we fire the head? And then if we say no, then we say, what does she want? And obviously our role as a school committee is much more than that, but that is a key piece. The evaluation, the hiring and the evaluation of the superintendent. Finances are also, as have already been mentioned with the select board candidates, is going to be critical. At one point, I was vice president for cooperative education at Northeastern University, and I was part of an administrative team that had to reduce the university by a third. We did that because we were able to pull people together, to get everybody at the table, to come to common ground. It wasn't easy, but we did it. I think that one of the things we have to be able to do is to find a way to look at each other's views, listen actively, and be able to disagree, but not disagreeable. So I guess I would choose finance probably.
Thank you. Thank you. Melissa?
Thanks for the question. So I would like to say policy. I have sat on policy for the last 10 years. And I'm hearing some things that sort of echo in my head that we have to continue to follow our policy. We have policies in place. The policy manual is a living document, as we like to say. We have always welcomed families to come in by email, recently in person, asking for changes or just if we could look at things maybe a little differently. Perhaps they've gotten stale. Maybe we need to take a peek at them again. But I also think that budget is huge. I have never sat on budget. I have sat on, like I said, policy as well as the superintendent evaluation. Budget is so uncertain right now. And while we do have an excellent plan in place, I think that we really do need to keep a close eye on things and continue to make cautious plans while monitoring our funds so that we can continue to provide for our students and our staff.
Thank you. Michael Hanlon, we start with you this time. Given the declining number of students in the Falmouth Public Schools, change is inevitable. What possible solutions to this concern do you suggest?
Thank you for the question. The declining, and actually it was a similar question the Enterprise had asked, the declining student population is happening everywhere. One of the factors that's affecting us in Falmouth and on the Cape are the housing prices. Housing prices are going up, young families cannot afford to live here. That being said, I do not believe a drastic change to the school system is necessary right now without the proper data and stakeholder input. I know that this town has a lot of needs. I'm going to throw one of them out there, pickleball. Slow down, everyone in here, all right? So as we know, pickleball is a big need. So if we have community assets, I work in Rainham. One of my friends who's now passed was a selectman in Rainham for 39 years. And he said the biggest mistake any town can do is give away land or a building because you never know when you're going to get it back or if you can get it back and what it's going to cost. So the idea of deleting a building or any piece of land from us is not the best way to do it. We should sit together with community stakeholders, including the senior center, the board of selectmen, and find out what we need for this community and help out all stakeholders at the same time.
Thank you. Sarah?
Given the declining number of students in Falmouth, I believe the inevitable changes may include reevaluating how we use space, staffing models, and programming to ensure we're maximizing resources without compromising quality. This challenge also presents an opportunity to reimagine how we deliver education in ways that are equitable, efficient, and responsive. One of the largest drops in enrollment happens between 8th and 9th grade, when students explore other strong options across the Cape. Dr. Harris, the principal of Falmouth High School, recently noted that one thing setting us apart is the flexibility of our vocational program scheduling, a strength we should be proud of. We need to find and build on these advantages to help our high school be the best it can be. We also need to incorporate family and teacher involvement in creating a system that truly sets us apart from the rest. Rather than focusing on attracting new families, especially given the high cost of housing, we should concentrate on strengthening the experience for the students that are already here. If we make our district a place where families feel supported and educators feel heard, we won't just react to declining enrollment, we'll build something stronger in response.
Thank you, Amanda.
Would you mind repeating the first
Sure.
question again? Thank
Given
you.
the declining number of students in the Falmouth Public Schools, change is inevitable. What possible solutions to this concern do you suggest?
So I want to focus on the solution part because I think we're going to get creative. Although I will acknowledge, yes, there is a declining enrollment rate. We are going to have to get, we're going to have to make some hard decisions. That may look like consolidating some schools. That may look like closing schools. I don't know, what that looks like. But I do want to talk about the solutions or creative solutions. One thing, my mom is from Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is a real place, not just fun to say. So she's from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and they have something called the Kalamazoo Promise, where if you attend school K through 12 there, you can attend University of Michigan or some of the Michigan state schools for free. They have articulation agreements there. They have a scientific community not unlike ours. And they were also seeing a drop in enrollment, and they were trying to bring more young families in. That was something that they did. Obviously, ours may not look like that, but it's interesting to start looking at that models and what other communities are doing to try to bring in additional families. I think it would make sense to get a little creative and explore some of these things. I have brought that up to the superintendent and a couple members of the school committee here as well, and I'd love to talk more about it.
Thank you. Jane.
Thanks. Given the demographic data over the past years, the decline in school-age children is unlikely to reverse itself. It is happening, as I think Mike said, all over the Cape and Islands. I understand that if elected, I will have a steep learning curve. To begin that process, I have talked to current and past committee members, retired and active Falmouth teachers, a number of parents and grandparents, and my age, and past and current Falmouth administrators. The only cohort I haven't talked to is students, and in my experience, they are usually the best source, so I'm glad to see we have them here tonight. I'm going to try not to go to the final note. I mean, it's hard when you are a professor. You get to where you like to hear yourself talk, so it's very hard to cut it down. But I need to hear much more about the options before I'm prepared to offer any solutions. However, through my experience and mediation and administration, I have learned the importance of active listening so people feel that they have had an opportunity to be heard, as well as the importance of a good process to produce a good outcome.
Thank you. Melissa.
Thank you. Falmouth Public Schools has been anticipating the need to make changes as our enrollment has been declining by roughly 40% in the last 25-ish years. Important conversations have begun to analyze the complete picture and may require difficult decisions. The superintendent proposed Navigating the Future last summer, and from that, the Building Needs Task Force was created. As a member of the task force, we are charged with assessing our schools, potentially shifting grades and reassessing our buildings. The task force requested an outside consultant. New England School Development Council was chosen, and they have offered 8 options. The task force is currently discussing these options, and once the review is completed, will present their recommendations to the school committee. It is important to do what is best for students while balancing financial responsibility to the town. Having 8 to 12 at the high school has a potential to open opportunities in arts, music, athletics, and academics, to name a few. Shifting 5 to 7 together creates a true robust middle school after attending a traditional elementary. We have an opportunity to learn from neighboring communities that have gone through similar transitions and craft a model that is truly best for our students, staff, and community. Falmouth High School has 10 pathway programs that help retain students in 18 AP courses, and we've broken down barriers for testing, which has also helped keep our students where they are. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Margaret?
I don't like giving up buildings either. However, the declining enrollment has been going on for over 30 years. And since I've been in Falmouth, I've been hearing about giving up school property back to the town. And maybe the school should have a seat at the table. This year, the superintendent set a table. And in terms of giving a plan. And and then we've had community forums, which I have been to most of them. From my perspective, the issue was to be discussed and then the decision made as to which school and where to place those students after the community input was gathered. At the April forum, I set forth a step-by-step approach to address the issue. They can be viewed on my Falmouth page. The basics of my perspective is that one school property should be returned to the town 2026, 2027. And any potential restructuring needs to be analyzed when all the school transitions have occurred over the next, oh my goodness, we should return the last property. Each change and move that is undergone needs to be carefully planned and continually evaluated, including the issue of preschool and its need and location, and to ensure that the changes that we make are in the best interest of the educational experience of all our students. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sarah, we start with you this time. What is the most pressing concern facing the school committee in the year ahead, and what action would you recommend to address it?
I would say the proposal of navigating the future is probably going to be the most important the beginning of next year. That is a big blockage right now, I feel, to move forward. After that, declining enrollment and moving the buildings around, that needs to be done. We have older infrastructure, we have declining enrollment. We have third grade in one school and fifth grade in another when they possibly should be together because they have the same licensure and they follow the same standards. So that could save a little bit of money as well. Preschool needs their own building to build what has been talked about, which is a comprehensive preschool with all facets of needs being taken care of. But I'm going to say two things: navigating the future, which is the reorganization, and then also the budget, because we can't do anything without what's going to be happening in the future. So preparing for the future with the budget.
Amanda?
Thank you. So in addition to the navigating the future proposals, I won't speak too much on that. I do agree with a lot of what Sarah has said and what other candidates have said. I think over the next 4 years, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty about, what funding streams will look like. And I know, a few candidates have said it tonight. We are really fortunate in that we live in Massachusetts. We are really fortunate that we live in Falmouth, and we do have access to more resources than others would. But there's going to come a time over the next 4 years where we may have to make some hard decisions, and I would like to see people at the table who are going to be loud and advocate for those who need it most. So when I say that, I'm thinking about those who rely on IEP plans, 504 plans, our English language learners who rely on translation services, our kiddos that rely on mental health services within our schools, and those who rely on free and reduced lunch. I think we are going to have to start making some tough decisions over the next few years, and standing on our values loudly, I think is going to be one of them. So thank you.
Jane?
Thanks. Well, again, as I said a while ago, I feel it's a little premature for me to say what I think is going to be the most pressing thing before the school committee. But if I take a meta look, I would say the most pressing thing is the school committee has got to work as a unit. It's got to be able to work together with the other stakeholders. But the committee itself has got to be able to work through and discuss and listen to each other respectfully. And I think that that is one thing that I would hope, given my mediation experience, et cetera, that maybe I could be helpful in that way. I also think that this is a time when things are not going particularly easy in our world, and I think it's a time that we have to, as a community, come together. And again, the school committee, it seems to me, is in a central position to try to address the things that are coming up, the programs, different programs that we don't even think about. I was impressed when I heard the assistant superintendent at a meeting the other day say, we want our graduates to be prepared to have 5 careers, and 2 we don't even know about yet. So, again, I think it is critical that the committee get together and work as a committee, as a unit, listen to the other stakeholders, but
Thank you, Jane.
be able to come together and make
That's time,
decisions.
Jane.
Yes, I know.
Melissa,
Right.
Could you please repeat the question?
what is the most pressing concern facing the school committee in the year ahead, and what action would you recommend to address it?
Definitely navigating the future. This has been a long time coming. It's a challenging, difficult decision, conversation that has been initiated. It has not been an easy conversation to start. I'm grateful that it has been started. I think with our declining enrollment, we really need to focus on today's student, today's classroom. I would like to see navigating the future through. I'm not completely convinced as to if we have every decision out there yet. I'm still hopeful to get some feedback from the community. I know that there's been some community members that have given their thoughts to the school committee and to navigating the future and to the building needs subcommittee, task force, of which I'm very grateful for. I continue to listen, and truly I think that navigating the future in the next year is what's most important for the future of Falmouth Public Schools.
Thank you, Margaret.
You know, certainly navigating the future is top-notch, and no doubt about it. However, I'm going to do my introduction now. Okay, because one of the things I think is very important is communication, and communication to the community. And so during the last 3 years, I've had the opportunity to see firsthand the strengths of our school system. I have met and listened to dedicated teachers who are doing remarkable work. Teaching in today's world is far more challenging than when I first began teaching many years ago. It behooves the school committee to inform the community of the successes of our school. To underscore the quality of our schools, 189 students are part of our school choice program, and they have selected Falmouth. They are brought here each day by their parents who recognize that the Falmouth school system provides resources for their children that they do not have in their own home districts. Noteworthy also are the students who have left our school but have returned. Dr. Harris shared with me that they let him know that the work that they do here is much harder than they had to do before. I am mindful that there will always be challenges, but they need to be addressed professionally and resolved. However, I want to assure all of the community, and I think that's so important in the future, that we have schools to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael.
Yeah, the biggest task the next year is communication. Communication. Every single year that I've been on this committee, something has happened, and the public has no idea what's going on. The teachers have come to me. Every year the teachers do a survey of what their biggest concerns are in the district. And the last 3 years, the majority of teachers in our district are concerned about the communications from central office, as well as the rollout of programs that they had no idea about. This goes to the sticker book grading system. This goes to navigating the future. This goes to modern teacher. And every single year, there's been a new thing that is not communicated to the stakeholders. Again, We are a body elected by the people for the people. We don't shove our ideas down. We take everyone's ideas and we amplify them. I will say over the last few years, some might consider me a troublemaker. I do talk a lot, but I will say this, as long as I'm on the committee, I will continue to be the voice of the people who come to me on a daily basis. Communication is not just highlighting our strengths, it's focusing on our weaknesses and making changes. And if we just highlight on our strengths, our school district will not be as good as it can be. And we need to have open communication back and forth. And I will close with this communication. A lot of teachers and teachers and parents and others have come to me and said that they are afraid to speak up. And that is not good for the district. Back and forth communication.
Michael, that is time. I'm
I
sorry.
know.
Thank
That's
you.
all right. You were pretty quick cutting me off,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That's just as
Saying.
quick with Jane, just as quick. All right, Amanda, what should the school committee do to promote the respectful exchange of varying points of view at its public meetings?
So one thing that sort of guides me, and it's happening right now, is to act with the knowledge that my kiddos are watching. And so you can have a differing opinion, but make sure it's respectful. State your point. Once you start to get a little bit hysterical, your point loses its power. So maintaining respect and acknowledging that I'm modeling behavior for my kids and always keeping that in mind, I guess.
Thank you. Jane?
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. What
trying
should
to
the
get
school
down here.
committee do to promote the respectful exchange of varying points of view at its public meetings?
One of the first lessons I learned when I was doing training for mediation is how powerful it is when someone has the opportunity to tell their story. And it's not just saying the words. It has to be more. It has to be that there are listeners who are actively listening and asking questions so as to understand their position and stand in their shoes. This is the task of the mediator. It seems to me that it's one of the things that we need to do. I'm listening to concerns about communication. It seems to me that this is a relatively small group. I think as school boards go, we're pretty large, but it's still a relatively small group. We ought to be able to talk together, as well as with town people who come to open meetings, in a way, again, that is respectful and that actually has that person understand that you hear what they're saying. Hearing what one says does not mean you agree with it, but hearing it is important for their perspective to feel like they have been heard. I'm going to stop and not go over time.
Thank you. Melissa?
Well, it's so important to not just hear people, but to listen to what they're saying. As a nurse, I see that every day. I listen to my patients, not just their words, but their emotion behind it, how they got there in the morning when they come and see me in the before surgery. And I feel like listening to parents, not just this year, although this year has been contentious, but in years past, I pride myself on being out there. I pride myself on being available. I do my grocery store shopping in town. I put my phone number out to anybody. If you don't have it, it's everywhere. Anyone that knows me knows that even if we don't always agree, I am always respectful. I always listen. I truly take words to heart. I oftentimes ponder and think about what could I do differently? Am I truly seeing the people for who they are and where they're coming from? Why are they angry? Why are they happy? Why are they, and how can we, the committee, how can I myself make it better? How can I fix it? So I would continue to be respectful, continue to listen to people, continue to put myself out there, and happily absorb everything, all the people and the students and the parents.
Thank you. Margaret?
Yeah, I certainly think that a respectful exchange of points of view is really important. I take Colin's word about listening. And you know, as a social worker, we tend to listen from our own frame of reference. We tend to have a point of view. And if people are saying things that aren't, you know, within our point of view, it doesn't seem right. And one of the things as a social worker, and sometimes people get very upset with me, is I try to ask over and over again to really get clarification about what people are saying. I don't do it perfectly. I make mistakes. I've been wrong on occasions. But I think listening demands not just hearing the words, but making certain that we're not assuming what we heard, but making certain that we find out what that person was trying to communicate to us. And I think that's so important. I think to have those meetings, we need to be respectful, but we also have to have direct communication and honesty in terms of speaking our mind, but listening to each other. And I'm going to end on that. Thank you.
Michael?
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Sure. What should the school committee do to promote the respectful exchange of varying points of view at its public meetings?
Oh, thank you. I believe that respect is given and earned, and it goes both ways. I do have, I will say, the last 3 years, I've definitely been the member who's been interrupted the most on our meetings. I get interrupted all the time whenever I speak. And you just take it, you keep on moving. I've seen parents at these meetings who've been shut off from talking, they have valid concerns. So the amount of respect we as a committee get amongst ourselves is what we give off. And the amount of respect that we get from the parents, the teachers, stakeholders is what we give off. And the other thing I will say is that respect in front of the cameras and on the meetings, that's great. But when other committee members are on the VIPS cruise calling me a bag of trash, there's no respect. So this whole facade of, oh yeah, we all respect each other, it's not necessarily true. And I will always defend the parents and the teachers who come to me, and no matter how disrespected I am by other people, I will continue to do that. So I agree that respect is great, but it's a give and take, and we need to respect everyone, not just those with like opinions.
Sarah?
I don't know. I broke it. Okay. So the school committee is elected by the people. You are expected, I don't know if expected is the right word, to use decorum, to be respectful, to listen to others' opinions, formulate your own opinion, and come to a consensus. It's okay to be passionate. It's okay to show your emotions. That's part of making decisions, especially when you're dealing with children. But eye-rolling when parents are talking, interrupting and acting unprofessionally is unacceptable, and it's actually embarrassing to the town. If elected, I do anyway, but I'll picture my children and my friends' children and the community's children. I will picture the parents crying at the open forums, which is so disheartening. And I'll listen to the teachers who, one was begging me the other day if I'm elected, to listen to the teachers. I will advocate and I will listen. That's it.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to move to audience questions. Chloe Bridges is a junior at Falmouth High, and she's going to come up to Mike with her first question. Chloe, want to come right up here? And this, Jane, you'll begin this.
Hello all, I'm Chloe Bridges and I'm a current junior at Falmouth High School. As a student with a certain fondness for English, I have come to understand that literature, plays a fundamental role in our society. As it seems, we as individuals spend a lot more time voicing our own opinions and ideas than we do listening to others. Literature allows for those voices to be heard in full, free of our own intervention. Unfortunately, this catalyst for expression and understanding has been and continues to be silenced by book banning. Primarily, titles including diversity are affected, and in turn, literature is losing its universal superpower. And so I ask you, what will you do to prevent the further banning of books?
Jane.
Thank you. It's an important question, and we're watching it nationwide. I was pleased to see when the issue was brought up here, the open meeting was overwhelmingly a number of people. I was shocked at how many people came out and who were, I thought, very articulate in their concerns. In some ways, I think some people got a little aggressive, but in some ways it was also because what was presented in such a way that there weren't answers or evidence to what was being said. So all in all, it was a good start, and I think it expressed the view of this town, which is we don't want banned books in this town. And one of the people at that meeting said, who is a librarian from another area, that parents trust the librarians, they trust teachers to give their children the books that are appropriate for them. And I thought that was a powerful statement. And given the quality of this school and the quality of our teachers and librarians, I can't imagine that you don't trust them. And banning books is something that takes us to a very bad time, where that became kind of an opening step in something that became much worse. Personally, I'm reminded that when Thomas Jefferson gave his library to the Library of Congress after in the War of 1812 the British burned it down, there were members of Congress then who said, he has books that are against religion, he has books in foreign languages, I don't know that we want his library. But they took it, and again, we have a Library of Congress today
Jane,
because of
thank you. Melissa.
Thank you. Great question. In a word, I'm not really a fan of book banning. I trust our librarians. I think of, I've always been comfortable at the library, whether it was here as a kid or the East Falmouth Library or the library at the schools that I attended here, K to 12. I trust our librarians. I trust our librarians. I am just not a fan of book banning, and I don't really know what else to say to that. I think that it's keeping an eye on things is one thing, making sure the books are appropriate for grade, if we're talking about, where'd she go? If we're talking about grade levels, I think keeping things that are current for age brackets, if we're talking about schooling, I assume that's what we're talking about. Being cognizant of that is important, but overall book banning, I'm definitely not a fan of.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you for the question, a fellow English lover. When I was in college, my sociology professor said, literature is just life with sociology with, English is just sociology with the clothes on. We have wonderful librarians in our school system, and they are really able to make certain that the books that they put on the shelves are age appropriate. You know, parents can have the right to say, I don't want my child to read that book. And a parent can have that right. But I don't think a parent has a right to say that someone else's children can't read that book. And so clearly, we need to have books that are available, that children may choose, may read. And I really we need to support our librarians who really do focus on age-specific, grade-specific books available to every student. So thank you for that question.
Michael?
Thank you for the question, and my short answer is no. I don't want to ban any books. However, I will say this. Just a few months ago, Falmouth Public Schools has a book banning policy, basically, which is a policy that they can take books out of the library. And just a few months ago, we got an email that they've taken some books out of circulation in the library. So it's not to the extent of book banning, but they currently have that. Now, I, for one, am for no banning of anything, because the issue with banning something is when you have one person in power, then it changes, the bans flip. So my idea would be that everything is open to everyone all the time. I'm going to use my whole 2 minutes this time, too, so I'm ready. Oh, geez. So the other thing is for any high school student, if you were to read a book of one viewpoint, I would suggest trying to find a book of the opposite viewpoint. Because a lot of the times and this goes beyond the book banning, but with any literature, any kind of information you get, there's multiple lenses to look at, and that would be my advice to any student. But the short answer again is no, we won't ban any books.
Sarah?
I'm going to go along with everyone else. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe that private groups and the government don't have any authority to block information from anyone. But I also believe it's one of many difficult topics, and like all the other topics, like open communication from the people that have voted us in would be at the forefront. Yeah, we have to listen first, be transparent, and listen. But me, myself, I do not believe in book banning.
Amanda?
Thank you very much for your question, Chloe. I'm sorry we're at a point right now where you have to ask it. But just to echo what everybody else up here has said, I believe in the value of free speech, of the freedom to express yourself, and that access to information is fundamental, both for our kids and for a lot of adults. And while parents should absolutely have a say in what their child may be reading at home or what they have access to, et cetera, I don't believe in the idea or support banning books that other people have access to. And so, just because a book may not align with somebody's personal preferences or values or beliefs, instead of looking at things under the guise of censorship, I think we should be having conversations about differing viewpoints and the choices that we're making. And I think that would help us more kind of grow as individuals and a community. So, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Chloe. Thanks for all right, another audience question. And Melissa, you'll start this time. Bullying is a problem at all school districts. What are some ways that you can tackle the bullying problem, and what would you put in place to help?
Well, I can tell you firsthand, being a little only child growing up in East Falmouth with a funny last name that was not Portuguese was not so easy. What would I do? Well, since we can't reincarnate Carol Bissonette, although try as we might, I think communication, speaking to each other, understanding everyone's differences and different backgrounds. I think that schools have changed from when, I was a little kid with a funny last name who was super shy and not related to half the town, to now understanding where people come from, that people come from all different places, and how can we embrace them and their differences. I think that kind of helps break down bullying. I think that Falmouth has done a really great job at accepting people for who they are, for seeing people for who they are, but I think that we also have a lot of work to do. And bullying doesn't stop at when you graduate high school. It's still there as an adult. So how can we fix it? Talk to each other, listen to each other, understand each other's differences, and understand that, sometimes different isn't weird. It's just who you are. Thanks.
All right, Margaret?
Unfortunately, I think we live in a time where bullying is sort of more accepted than it previously was, and a lot of it goes around, and I wish I knew how to end it. But I will go to policy this time, because we just recently at the school committee had a policy about bullying, and not on the committee, but I read the policy good, and I remember reading peers can't bully each other, and I said that policy isn't clear. Because do you mean that 2 third graders can't bully each other? And so I asked them to change it, because bullying has to do with people who are different. One is better than the other. Already 30 seconds? No. You know, it's that notion of, to make me better, I've got to make you littler. That's not good English. Where's my English? Sorry about that, but I got to make you smaller. And so I think it's important to make sure that our policies about bullying are really correct, and I make sure that our policies are really implemented correctly, and that they're clear, that everyone who reads that policy knows what that policy is, understands that policy, and knows exactly what bullying is, and hopefully we can try to learn to respect each other. When I'm at the high school student said something wonderful. Oh my God, no. They said something wonderful. They said, we have community, and we expect our community to make the town
Margaret, I
more
gotta
community.
stop you.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael.
Thank you for the question. When I was in high school, I didn't grow till I was a junior, but I weighed the same. So it wasn't funny in high school, but I got bullied a lot. And then I became a giant. And I will say a couple of years ago, I didn't know I did this, but a couple of years ago, a guy reached out on Facebook. He lives in New York City. And he just said, hey, you know, when I was in high school, I was getting picked on and you stuck up for me, and that meant a lot. I think that's where we have to go. There's no policy or law or nothing we can do to stop bullying. It's community. And it has to come from the top. And briefly, I would tell anyone, and the kids aren't going to like me, but don't be on cell phones or computers until you're much older. Because when I was a kid, you get bullied at school, you go home, you know, you watch some TGIF, you're fine. But now it follows them with social media. And we see that a lot. So the biggest thing I can say is that this has to be a community-driven thing, and for every high school student, if you see someone getting bullied, just go and say something, show some support. That's gonna mean a lot to them. And I'm sure that everyone in this room and at home at one point in time felt bad, and somebody came up and said something positive, and it changed your whole day. The converse is what we wanna stop, so just spread, you know, good vibes.
Sarah?
So bullying is a huge problem in Falmouth Public Schools. I don't know if anyone has mentioned it. On the buses, it's a problem. In the schools, and on phones, texting. Like every facet, there's bullying going on. And it happens everywhere. It happens in the workplace. I think the major thing to tackle it would be education for the students. The more they learn about it, the more it affects, the better they'd be able to handle it or intervene if they see it. But as a school committee member and watching parents crying about their kids getting beat up on the playground is heart-wrenching. And it's even more heart-wrenching when I talk afterwards and the school committee has not reached out at all. And I know there's like switching of schools going on, but it's very disheartening. I know it's a problem. I think education every single day, bullying, intervene, maybe a hotline for the high school, and I'm being rushed, so that's it.
Amanda?
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Sure. Bullying is a problem at all school districts. What are some ways that you can tackle the bullying problem, and what would you put in place to help?
Okay. So, you know, policy's great. My 9-year-old's not going to read the policies at, you know, in her elementary school. So what she's going to learn is modeled behavior and learned behavior and consequences, honestly. I caught her being a mean girl not too long ago, and she got grounded for a week. You know, she's not being a mean girl anymore. But those conversations start at home. But I do also realize that not all kiddos are having those conversations at home. So what can we do as a community to provide access to resources that parents aren't otherwise getting? Because to be completely honest, when my daughter was a jerk, I called my mom. I'm like, what do I do? You know, it would be great if we had some sort of community resource, maybe with the adjustment counselors or other people that have gone through this before, other moms, other parents,
to be able to kind of rely on for that. So I think that would be a very cost-effective way. We have mental health. Gosnold is a provider of substance use disorder and mental health counseling in town. We have access to these resources that we could use, and so I would kind of be an advocate for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane?
One of the things I love about this town is that we are no place for hate. And I understand that the high school, actually, I believe I was told it was in 2002, started a program called No Guff. And apparently it got that name because one of the youngsters that was there and started the program said, well, his grandfather used to say, I don't want to hear any guff from you. So the No Guff week still stands, I believe, in the high school. And what that is the students make a commitment during that week that they will not say anything mean or unpleasant to another student. And it's still going on today, and I think that's a great program. I'm going to say something that's probably not very popular, but I think there's a misunderstanding about what the school committee's role is. There are lots of issues. Time is one of them. I'm being signaled. The committee has some important decisions and some important roles, but taking care of a lot, you do elect us, but you elect us because you expect us to take care of some of the more important and pressing issues. That is not to say these others aren't pressing. They are for the people involved. But the school committee cannot be a place where everybody comes with their grievance and expect that the committee's going to get anything done. My time is up.
Thank you. All right, Margaret, we start with you this time. What criteria would you use when deciding what programs or positions to cut or to fund?
I think, I don't think I have the right to decide what programs to cut and fund. I think that what we really need to do is do an analysis of all the programs and the people involved in those programs, and ask for, I don't believe in the, electric saw. I think that we have to ask people because, unfortunately, if we're in a time where everybody has to take pain, and I hate that thought, we have to find out exactly what is really reasonable for each person, for each program. We can't just make a decision about, let's get rid of that program, this is our favorite, or this is my pet program. So we really have to talk to the people involved in those programs to find out what those programs are about, to find out what they think could be a way to perhaps save some money, find some ways to help people join together. We have some wonderful programs at the school where, in fact, we have peer support. There's all kinds of things that we can do that can be creative, but it takes time, and it takes listening to people and listening to the programs involved and really trying to find out the people who are involved in it, what do they think, so that we can really make informed decisions and not impose our decisions on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, just to clarify to anyone at home watching, we aren't cutting anything right now. So this is a hypothetical question, I'm assuming?
Yes,
Okay.
hypothetical.
Thank you very much. Hypothetically, first of all, thank you to town meeting members for passing the school budget year after year, including the slight increase this past year. As far as programs being cut or funded, I'll focus on the cut part. I was in the North Falmouth PTO. I'm currently the Morse Pond PTO treasurer. I know Melissa and then Sarah and Amanda have been or are actively involved in the PTO. If you're in the school with the PTO, the amount of talented people in any given PTO, doctors, scientists, engineers, nurses, etc. This community is amazing because whenever there's an issue with budgeting, with cutting, everyone comes together, we work together, and I feel that if there was the need to cut anything, we could supplement with local experts in the community, building, construction, etc. I'm sure we can get people to do that. Hypothetically, of course, because right now we aren't cutting anything.
Sarah?
Well, I do know we are relinquishing one school building, so that will help. I don't think I'm qualified enough to answer what we should cut because I'm unaware of all of the programs that our schools offer. I do know a lot of them. But I lost my train of thought. Hold on 1 minute. Can you repeat the question real quick?
Sure. What criteria would you use when deciding what programs or positions to cut or to fund?
And also the extra spending that is not focused on students, I would probably take a hard look at that. But I'd have to look at my other school board members that have more experience in this. I'd have to attend a couple of budget meetings. I'd have to be a part of that. I do my research, and I would come to a decision after collaborating.
Thank you. Amanda?
So, as far as knowledge of programming and things like that, like I said, my oldest is in 3rd grade and she's at T-Ticket. My son will hopefully go to T-Ticket. T-Ticket is all I know so far. I have ventured into some of the other schools, obviously, for events and whatnot, but I just know T-Ticket. So I am not qualified to say what I would or wouldn't cut because I don't know the extent to which everything exists. But I would rely on, again, the current policies that we do have in place that we are supposed to be adhering to, which is that we're supposed to be consulting the people responsible for carrying out these different objectives. I would check in with the stakeholders, the community members, the educators, the staff, the students, the families, and get their input and synthesize that and come to a decision with my fellow community members.
Thank you. Jane?
You got that watch going? I do think we're going to have to look at some creative financial planning because I think the probability of losing some federal grants, although much of the money comes through the state, some of the money, like the IDEA grant, comes directly from the feds. And so we are going to have to think about that. I'm impressed, though, that everything I've heard from members of the school committee and past superintendents and others I've talked to, I'm impressed with what a commitment there is to the programs, to the student programs that are needed, to athletics, to music, to art. And I think, Mike, you mentioned the PTOs. That's one of the very important resources. But there are also others. Again, this generous town. There's the Falmouth Education Foundation that has raised in its 20-year existence, has raised almost $2 million for programs. This is supplemental. It doesn't go into the budget. This supplements the budget for things that we may have to cut, that we can find funding from the community. There is also the VIPS program, which has the volunteers. So we have a lot of resources. I think we should make the decision we're not going to cut any important programs, and they're all important to the students that are involved.
Right. Thank you, Jane. Melissa?
I would first gather all the stakeholders together and have a frank conversation as to what do you think is something that we could potentially talk about letting go. And then once that conversation happened, again with all of the stakeholders, I would then mushroom that out and rely on our amazing community, not just with the VIPS, with the FEF, which we are so grateful to have both of those, but also to our PTOs and to our community members at large. I'm hard pressed to hope that we wouldn't have to cut anything, but I know that the federal funding is a very big concern for everyone right now. I know that Falmouth Public Schools is doing very well financially. We've had some strategic planning for the last few years to set us up into a pretty good situation. But I think gathering all the stakeholders, having an open conversation with them, and potentially having to make some tough decisions, but certainly not just by me. I am definitely not qualified.
Thank you. All right, we've got a few questions in here about equity and DEI, so we're going to go with the simple one. Michael, where do you stand on DEI?
So DEI is something that Falmouth Public Schools invests heavily in. I myself have, over the years, asked to expand it. I've asked for a larger celebration during Hispanic Heritage Month, Asian Heritage Month. I actually just met with the largest Buddhist temple outside of Thailand is in Rainham, Massachusetts. And if you get a chance, take a drive up. It's amazing. But I work with the monks over there, and I actually shared the information with Lori Dorr, the Buddhist monks. Monk Benny comes in here, I believe, once a month and does meditation. So as far as DEI goes and what we have presented with the Cape Verdean Museum, the Wampanoag tribe, if we're going to do DEI, we should do it for all. I believe this past winter we were in T-Ticket or East, I forget, but a young student, they did a whole presentation on Chinese New Year, which was great, but it was only in that one school. I know that when my kids were at North Falmouth, each student brought in a little bit of their culture. That was great. So DEI, where every culture, and I think that we can do a better job on those different cultural months, and I think that the more we talk to folks from all different cultures, the more our students will excel.
Thank you, Sarah.
I think DEI is incredibly important to the schools in Falmouth, the town of Falmouth, the community, and it's needed. I was going to mention the presentation on the Chinese New Year, and I wish the system was more equitable, where all the students in Falmouth could have seen that. But in Falmouth, I have the number someplace, but I think it's like 7% of our families are English. Well, our students are English language learners. Their parents do not speak any English. So I think that might need a little bit of work. It's needed to incorporate that huge culture into, it's already here, but the other students need to learn. And I know at one school, well, I'm going to say T-Ticket because we are there, there is the ASD program, which deals with children on the spectrum, and I believe that our students welcome them in their arms, and when they see they're aware of it. When they go to Morse Pond, the other students are not sure what's going on. So I think DEI is incredibly important for English language learners, for kids with disabilities, and with English disabilities, and there's one more I forget. I can't think. Thank you.
Amanda.
So we're getting a workout tonight, aren't we, with this thing? So I think, Falmouth is an incredibly diverse community. And, Sarah and I see it every week when we're in the school. I'll speak to T-Ticket again just as an example, but we have to make copies, right, for the PTO. We have to make copies of things. And we make copies in English, and then we have to make copies in Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, and French, and Mandarin Chinese. And it's not necessarily for the kiddos in that school, right? It's for their parents, so their parents can be included in what's going on in the school. They can be informed. They know what's going on. I think DEI has become kind of a hot topic, but all it is a level playing field, right? It's taking these former marginalized groups and making sure that they have their fair shake. I think it's our duty to ensure that every kiddo in Falmouth has access to a high quality education and whatever they need as a support in order to get that, right? And so that might look like mental health supports, that might look like food, that might look like translation. It's going to look different for every kid, but I think it's our duty to provide it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
I don't understand. Hasn't Falmouth heard that in America, English is the only language, it's the official language. Haven't we all heard that? It's the Gulf of America. All right. I think that I'm sure we can improve it, but having lived in Manhattan and in Boston, I have to tell you that I am incredibly impressed with what the schools are doing here with DEI. And I guess the reason, oh, don't say 30 seconds already. I guess the reason the director here is going to keep his job is because he's the director of DEI and belonging. Isn't that correct?
Right.
I think that DEI is what has made this country. We are a country of immigrants. We are a country that no one thought 250 years ago. There was no country that put forth an idea about a multicultural nation. I hope we are in the process of trying to keep it, but diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging is what we are in Falmouth, and I hope there's never any question about that.
Thank you. Melissa?
DEI, DEIB as we like to call it, with the belonging in Falmouth. DEIB is part of the fabric of what Falmouth Public Schools stands for. It meets basic needs for not just our children, but our families and our community members. We meet kids where they are, all students, making sure that all students have an equal view of the field. I'm sure everyone has seen the 3 kids behind the fence, and one has a box and the other one's trying to stand on the tiptoes and the other one can't see anything because he's just little. Equity is getting rid of the fence, and Falmouth tries so very hard with many programs that we offer in Falmouth to get rid of the fence. So when I say that DEIB is part of the fabric of Falmouth, it's very much a part of the fabric of Falmouth. It's who we are. We have the luxury of having many cultures in Falmouth. We celebrate them, we encourage them. We can always do better, but it's just who we are. It's part of why I love being here. I don't know what else to say. I love Falmouth.
Thank you. Margaret?
Yeah, certainly cultural diversity is very important. I'm an anthropologist, and so understanding a variety of cultures. But I'm so glad that it was said that DEI is more than just cultures. Special needs children, children who are different. That is all DEI. DEI, is often reduced to racism, and that's horrible. But I do want to say something. We talk about DEI. What would it be like in this room for someone who is different? Because if we look around, DEI in some ways is invisible here. That we're all looking alike. We're all, white middle class folks or upper class folks or poor folks. And so I think it's important to think about that. What is it like for a person who is different, regardless if it's race, special needs, overweight, any kind of thing? What is it like for that person to walk into an area and be in that room and not feel comfortable because they're different? And I do want to end by saying that I do think that our school system, even though very often DEI is invisible because we're all gathered together, our school system really makes a strong effort. They do a variety of things to make sure that every child feels like they belong, that they are not different, that they're accepted for who they are and for what they are, and they can bring that forth.
Thank you. We're going to move to closing comments now, and Sarah, you are first.
Does my time begin when I start reading? Oh my goodness.
While you're looking for it, I'll just say any of the
Okay, I got it.
uncontested candidates who are here will be up for a minute next. Okay, yeah. Got one anyway, right? Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
I, in my opening statement that I had prepared, I wanted to thank Mindy. It was nice to see her again. I haven't seen her in a while. Thank FCTV, thank the library, thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us and holding this, and the library. So serving on this school committee means listening deeply, asking thoughtful questions, and making decisions that keep students at the center. Over the next few years, Falmouth schools will face important choices around funding, aging facilities, and how we support students with increasingly complex needs. I believe I can bring a balanced, collaborative, and steady voice to this work. As a business owner, I've created and followed through on a successful plan. I've managed budgets responsibly and implemented systems that support long-term success. As a parent and an advocate, I've worked to ensure that my own children's educational needs were met, and I know how important it is for every family to feel heard and supported. I'm someone who brings persistence and practical thinking to the table, and I'm confident I can help move important work forward. I also bring the experience of someone who's been actively involved in our schools, as a former teacher, as a PTO leader, and a community member committed to strengthening connections between families, staff, and leadership. My focus will be on financial responsibility, equity, and transparent communication. I'm not here with all the answers, but I'm ready to listen, to ask the right questions, and to do the work. Thoughtfully, honestly, and with a deep commitment to students and families. I'd be honored to earn your vote and represent our community. Thank you for your time tonight and for your dedication to Falmouth's future. And vote for Sarah Bogdan on May 20th.
Thank you. Amanda?
So to close again, I'd like to thank the League for hosting and for giving us the opportunity to share our perspectives. Again, I understand that I don't have the same educational background as some of my fellow candidates, but I do bring something which I think is equally important to the table. I have the attitude and determination to do this job well. I have the willingness and eagerness to learn and the commitment to my own children. To ensure an education that they deserve, they have access to, and their friends and their peers have access to. I also bring a new invigorated energy to fulfill this role with purpose and with pride. And if you read my article in the newspaper, which I realize is pretty ironic that I wrote an article to 40-somethings and under 40-somethings who don't read the newspaper, I'm going to reiterate something that was said tonight. I urge you to think, especially in small elections like this, how critical your vote is. Last year, out of 27,000 registered voters, only 5,800 people voted. Especially in small elections like this, your vote does matter. You have a voice. And I'm speaking now directly to people my age. We can't rely on our parents' generation forever. They have been doing the heavy lifting for so long. We need to step up. We need to start getting active in government. We need to start showing up and voting. This apathy has to stop. They've done our part. It's our turn, and I'm excited. So thank you for concerning me. I encourage everyone here to not only vote, but get your friends to vote, as it's been said, and together we can make a difference. Vote for Amanda McGonigal. Thanks.
Thank you. Jane?
I talked to you earlier about the little engine that could and hard work. I pledge not only to work hard, but with an understanding of the impact of the committee's work on Falmouth families, not only those with children in the schools, but also the impact of the committee's work on all of us who have chosen this community in which to live our lives. Amanda, you stole my thunder. I was going to talk about your great letter that you wrote in the letter to the editor in the Enterprise. It is true. We need the younger generation to get involved, to run for offices, to register to vote. But sometimes I think when there may be really consequential decisions coming up, some of us old gray-haired ladies may have something to say in those decisions. But I truly agree that we need the younger people involved because they are the leaders of our country. When I look for guidance in this difficult world we live in, I often turn to the notorious RBG. For those who don't know who the notorious RBG is, that's the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She once said, "Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." That is the way I aspire to do. That is what I aspire to do if I'm elected to the committee. I hope you will vote for me, and thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Melissa?
That's okay. Thank you again to Mindy. Nice to see you. Thank you to the League. Thank you to the library. Thank you all again for coming out, and thank you for the people listening at home. My kids are just a shade older than yours, and they don't have to go to bed yet, but I assume that we're getting there. I've had the honor and privilege of being on the school committee for the last 10 years, and I sincerely hope to continue to earn your vote on May 20th. I have been involved in some big projects. We've heard a lot about navigating the future. I'd like to see where this goes. I feel like my work on the committee isn't done. I feel like I have a lot more to give. I'm looking forward to seeing how that scenario plays out. I'm hopeful that I've made you proud in the last 10 years. I'm hopeful that if you don't know me, that we get to know each other. I'm hopeful to continue to listen to our teachers. To know me is to know that I chronically advocate for teachers. And like the other parents on the committee, I have spent a lot of time with PTO and in and out of schools. So I hope to earn your vote once again on May 20th. Please vote for me, Melissa Keefe. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret?
I've already said thank you, so thank you again. Okay. I am grateful for all of you who have taken the time to be here or to watch the presentation on television. Voting is very important, and I am asking you for your vote. Please know that I am available if you have any questions about my service during my past 3 years or my current candidacy, and where I stand on any of the issues. I am one voice among 9 members of the school committee. I will let my voice and my ideas be known. However, it is important for the school committee members that when decisions are made, that we speak in only one voice. Successful school committees are those that work together for the good of all students. An interchange of different approaches and coming to an awareness of different perspectives enables the committee to better grasp a complete understanding, and it will enable better decision-making. Once again, I thank you, and please mark your calendars and vote on May 20th.
Thank you. Michael?
Thank you, Mindy and Bob et al. In the truck. Michael Heelan, Falmouth High School, class of '98, Fitchburg State, BS Communications. I have my MBA from Fitchburg. I am currently at Northeastern for my doctorate of education in my dissertation. I forgot the first time. I run a nonprofit I have for about 18 years. The last 12 or 13, I've had interns come in from a high school in Rhode Island, and we mentor them in communications. These kids leave my program with a certificate, go off and work. I do want to say one thing, vote for Mike Heelan, but also, this is more. I had one kid, one student 10 years ago who reminded me of my daughter, and I started calling this student Big Rory, and she was so anxious, she almost couldn't get to the first day. And I talked to her. 2 years later, she graduated, went off to college in communications. And the reason I tell that story is that there is something to be said about, and I'm going to call people out, Melissa, Sarah, and Amanda. Mothers in the schools working not only for their children, but all children is amazing. And I believe Amanda wrote it, and Jane seconded the fact that we need new leaders. We need young blood to continue this process. So I am requesting, and I know this is probably against all forum rules, but if you don't vote for me, please look at the 3 women in our schools every single day volunteering with a vested interest in our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the school committee candidates. Don't get up, because I don't want everybody to rush out. Come on up, you got your minute. Come on, right up to this mic right now. You already started.
I've had 2 hours to prepare for a minute, so. So we need new young leaders, so here I am. Should I just go sit down now? Am I good? Am I good? Yeah, anyways. I'm Jack Richardson, Falmouth K through 12 Holloway. I'm 22 years old. I'll be the youngest member of the select board in the history of Falmouth. It's an honor and a privilege. So to be brief, in my day job, I serve for our state senator, Dylan Fernandez, as his district director, which means I'm managing relationships not only for Falmouth, but for all 9 towns of the Plymouth and Barnstable district, which is the 4 towns of the Upper Cape and over the bridge. So I'm really in meetings every day talking about issues not only facing our town, but our region. So really learning about what are other towns doing better than us, which is usually not a lot. To be clear, that's me in this capacity, not my work capacity. And what we can do better as a town. So one thing that didn't get talked about that I think is critical is climate change, particularly on coastal resiliency. And I'm glad that the current board and the town manager have found a coastal resiliency coordinator. I think that's a crucial step. But we need to take a really proactive approach on climate change. And we talk about affordability and finding, places to live for the next generation. That's me, and that's my friends. And we really need to take all solutions should be on the table. And last thing, I'm going over on time. I think I'm allowed to do
real
that.
quick.
Yeah. So.
I got to get the hook.
Yeah, I know, and we're probably past the library's closing hours for sure. But yeah, the amount of wealth that has entered this town since COVID, with the lack of buy-in from seasonal communities, seasonal residents is something we really need to look at. We are talking about hedge fund managers. We're not talking about families of 4 from Connecticut who stay for months. And we really need to take a serious approach of what are we more to capitalize on this revenue base that I think could really unlock a lot of opportunities. We're talking about a lot of expensive things, as Doug pointed out. It's something that is not, we want to talk about equity. We really need to look at it from a class perspective, and we're not getting enough, and we need to do more. So
Right,
I'm Jack
thank
Richardson.
you.
You don't have a choice. I'm serving you. Thank you.
Are there any other?
1-year candidate for select board. I didn't even say the most important part. There we go.
There aren't any other uncontested, are there? Oh, come on.
I am not 22 years old. My name is Judy Handley. I'm running for the Library Board of Trustees, unopposed, so you'll have to put up with me. But I just want you to know that I grew up in a town with no library, and this bookmobile came through town every 2 weeks, and it opened up a whole world to me. And so I'm really dedicated. I've been a lifelong educator, a lifelong learner, and I look forward to helping Falmouth Public Library system grow into the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Thank you so much, everybody who came out tonight and everybody who's watching at home. And like Michael Palmer said, vote. May 20th. Thank you.